My son's words hit me like a physical blow, stealing my breath as we stood in Obidos's picturesque main square. The medieval Portuguese town, with its whitewashed buildings and cobblestone streets, suddenly felt alien and threatening rather than charming. "Nathan, you can't be serious," I stammered, searching his face for any hint that this was a poorly conceived joke. "We're in a foreign country. I don't speak Portuguese. I don't even know the name of our next hotel." "Mom, you've been complaining this entire trip," he replied, not quite meeting my eyes. "Nothing we do is good enough. The hotels are too modern, the schedule is too rushed, we're not seeing the real Portugal." "I just suggested we might visit this small museum I read about," I said, my voice smaller than I intended. "It wouldn't take more than an hour." "An hour? We don't have," Elise, my daughter-in-law, interjected. She stood beside our rental car, designer sunglasses perched on her perfect nose, scrolling through her phone with deliberate disinterest. "We have reservations at that coastal restaurant I told you about, the one with 10,000 Instagram tags. If we don't leave now, we'll miss our slot." "God forbid we miss a photo opportunity," I muttered, immediately regretting the comment when I saw Nathan's expression harden. "That's exactly what I'm talking about, Mom, the constant passive-aggressive remarks. Elise has spent weeks planning this itinerary, and you've done nothing but criticize." The unfairness of his statement stung like a slap. I had been nothing but grateful for the invitation to join them in Europe, a dream I'd put off for decades while raising Nathan alone after his father left, working 2 jobs to put him through college, supporting his early career, babysitting his children whenever called upon. Even after David, my second husband, passed away 3 years ago, I had focused on being helpful, unobtrusive, appreciative. But something in me, something new and unfamiliar, refused to accept this characterization. "That's not true, and you know it," I said, standing straighter despite the weight of my 67 years. "I've been accommodating every step of this trip. I've gone along with Elise's schedule without complaint, even when it meant rushing through places I've waited my entire life to see, just so she could get the perfect lighting for her social media posts." Nathan's jaw tightened, the same expression he'd had as a stubborn teenager. "Whatever, Mom, we're leaving. You want to see your precious, authentic Portugal? Here's your chance." He turned and walked toward the car. I stood frozen, unable to process what was happening. Surely he wouldn't actually leave me here in a foreign country where I didn't speak the language, didn't know anyone, had no idea how to get to our next destination. But he had. Panic surged through me, a wave of dizzying fear that made my knees buckle. I grabbed the edge of a nearby stone bench to steady myself, my heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. "Oh God, oh God, oh God." I forced myself to take inventory. I had my purse with my passport, credit card, and about €200 in cash. I had my phone, but I'd been relying on Nathan's international data plan the entire trip. Without Wi-Fi, my phone was useless for maps, translation, or finding accommodations. I didn't even have my suitcase. It was in the trunk of the rental car along with most of my clothing, medications, and toiletries. I sank onto the bench, trying to control my breathing as black spots danced at the edges of my vision. "Don't pass out," I told myself. "Don't make things worse." Around me, the square continued as normal. Tourists laughed and took photos, a street musician played guitar in a corner, children chased pigeons across the cobblestones, shopkeepers chatted with customers. The ordinariness of it all felt surreal against the crisis engulfing me. What do I do now? The question looped in my mind, overwhelming and unanswerable. With trembling hands, I pulled out my phone, hoping, desperately, that maybe I could connect to some public Wi-Fi. No service, no data, no connection. Then a message appeared, sent just before they'd driven out of range. "When you're done being difficult, let us know and we'll tell you how to get to Lisbon." The casual cruelty of it made my eyes sting with tears. I wasn't being difficult. I was a 67-year-old woman who had simply wanted to visit a museum instead of rushing to another Instagram-worthy location. And for that, I'd been abandoned. I looked around the square again, really looked this time. It was mid-afternoon. The town was small. I could probably walk its entirety in less than an hour. There had to be a hotel, a police station, someone who spoke English. With effort, I forced myself to stand. Think logically. Step 1, find help. As I gathered my courage to approach a shopkeeper, my eye caught a small sign in a cafe window. Free Wi-Fi. A lifeline. I walked toward the cafe on unsteady legs and pushed the door open. Inside, the space was cool and dim after the bright sunlight. The air smelled of coffee and pastries. A few tables were occupied, tourists and locals quietly talking or staring at their phones. "Posso ayudar?" the young man behind the counter asked with a smile. "I'm sorry, I don't speak Portuguese," I said, my voice thin with stress. "Do you speak English?" "Little English," he replied. "Yes, Wi-Fi," I pointed toward the sign. "Ah, yes." He pointed to a chalkboard behind the counter where the network name and password were written. "Thank you. And coffee, please." "Espresso?" I nodded. I found a small table in the corner and sat down, hands shaking as I entered the password. Please work. The Wi-Fi connected. Relief flooded through me so suddenly I nearly cried. The barista placed the espresso in front of me, tiny, dark, perfect in a white porcelain cup. "Thank you," I said, forcing a normal smile. Now what? Call Nathan and beg him to come back? Try to find my way to Lisbon? Look for a hotel here in Óbidos? Each option felt heavy, complicated, humiliating. My phone buzzed. Another message. "Mom, don't be ridiculous. Just take a taxi to Lisbon. We'll pay for it when you get here." Something shifted inside me. Not fear, not panic. Anger. Slow, steady, clarifying. I stared at the message, then typed, "I'm safe. Don't worry about me. Enjoy your Instagram dinner." I turned off notifications from both Nathan and Elise, set the phone down, took a slow sip of espresso. The bitterness tasted different now, like resolve. I will not rush to Lisbon today. I will not beg. I opened my Maps app and downloaded an offline map of Portugal, something I should have done from the beginning. Then I searched for hotels in Óbidos. "First, a room," I whispered, then food, then we'll see. The simple act of making a plan steadied me. I was still afraid, still hurt, still alone, but I was no longer paralyzed. I was Judith Palmer, 67 years old, widowed, abandoned, but not broken. Not yet. After my third espresso, ordered through a combination of pointing and awkward smiles, the young man behind the counter approached me again, concern written across his face. "Problem?" he asked gently. I hesitated, shame rising in my chest. How could I explain this? That my own son had abandoned me? But I needed help. "My family," I began slowly, gesturing a car driving away. "They left. I need hotel for tonight." His eyes widened. "Family left you?" he asked in disbelief. I nodded. "Not good," he said firmly. "Not good." He placed a hand on his chest. "Miguel, I help." Relief washed over me so strongly my eyes filled with tears. "Judith," I replied, touching my chest. "Thank you." Miguel pulled out his phone and made a quick call, speaking rapid Portuguese I couldn't understand. After a moment, he smiled. "Me auntie, guest house, small room, clean, safe, good price." He showed me a photo of a narrow building with blue shutters and flower boxes. "Perfect," I said, meaning it with all my heart. "How far?" He pointed outside. 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Another small miracle. "I take you," he offered. Before I could protest, he called to an older man at the counter who nodded and took his place. Miguel gestured for me to follow. Outside, the sunlight had softened, shadows stretched across the cobblestones as we crossed the square. My legs still felt unsteady, but I followed him. "American?" he asked. "Yes, from Boston." "Ah, Boston. Celtics, Red Sox?" Despite everything, I smiled. "Yes." "Why family leave you?" he asked simply. I sighed. "Disagreement," I said. "They were angry." Miguel shook his head. Not good. Family not leave mother. Then, realizing what he'd said, looked horrified. Sorry, not old. It's okay, I said softly. You're right. We stopped in front of a narrow building with a hand-painted sign, Casa de Maria. Miguel knocked. A woman in her early 60s opened the door, salt and pepper hair pulled into a bun, warm eyes, simple blue dress. Tia Maria, Miguel said, then introduced me, explaining everything in rapid Portuguese. Maria's expression shifted from curiosity to outrage. She spoke quickly, gesturing emphatically, clearly disapproving of my family. Then she turned to me with warmth. Welcome, Miguel translated. She has a room, €60, breakfast included. It's perfect, I said, meaning it with all my heart. Miguel smiled. Downstairs, Maria had set a small table in the courtyard with a checkered cloth, a carafe of red wine, and a dish of olives. The lemon trees were strung with tiny white lights, casting a soft glow in the gathering dusk. Better? She asked, studying my face. After sleep? Much better, I replied, managing a genuine smile. Thank you for all of this. It's very kind. She waved away my thanks. Not kind, normal, human. She gestured for me to sit. Eat now. Tomorrow we make plan. Tomorrow. The word lingered in the air between us. I had no idea what it would bring, what decisions I would make, what path I would choose. But for now, there was this moment, a simple meal in a beautiful courtyard, unexpected kindness from a stranger, my first small victory of surviving on my own. I took a sip of the wine Maria poured. Its rich flavor grounded me in the present. Whatever came next, I had made it through the first day alone. A small accomplishment, perhaps, but in that moment, it felt monumental. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the blue shutters, accompanied by the distant sound of church bells. For a brief, blissful moment, I floated between sleep and wakefulness, free from memory or worry. Then, reality returned. Nathan's betrayal, my abandonment, the uncertainty ahead. My phone showed 7 missed calls and a dozen messages, all from Nathan. I scrolled without opening them, noting the shift in tone, from irritated, "Mom, this is ridiculous, call me," to concerned, "Are you okay? Where are you?" to urgent, "Mom, please respond, we're worried." His concern came too late. The image of him laughing with Elise as they drove away was burned into my memory. Not a mistake, but a deliberate cruelty. I set the phone aside. In the mirror, I looked slightly better than yesterday. A bit of color had returned to my cheeks, though the lines around my eyes seemed deeper. I washed up, brushed my teeth with travel-sized toothpaste from my purse, and grimaced at my wrinkled clothes. I would need to buy essentials today. Downstairs, Maria was setting breakfast. "Bon dia," she greeted warmly. "You sleep well?" "Very well, thank you." She poured strong, dark coffee into a small cup. "So, what is your plan today?" The question caught me off guard. I had been so focused on surviving that I hadn't thought ahead. I'm not sure, I admitted. I need clothes and toiletries. My suitcase is with my son. Maria nodded thoughtfully. Obidos has small shops, but Caldas da Rainha, 15 minutes by bus, you find everything. Then she looked at me more closely. But first, you must decide. You go to Lisbon to find your son, or you stay. The logical choice was obvious. Go to Lisbon, rejoin Nathan, finish the trip, return home, resume my quiet life. But something inside me resisted. The memory of his laughter, Elise's smug expression. "I don't know," I said quietly. "I need to think." "Then think while you eat," Maria said gently. The breakfast was simple and delicious. Fresh bread, local cheese, eggs, strong coffee. As I ate, the panic from yesterday faded, replaced by something unexpected. Anger. And beneath it, possibility. What if I didn't go to Lisbon? What if instead of chasing after my son, I chose my own path? The thought was terrifying. and exhilarating. I had my passport, my credit card, some cash. I was healthy, independent, no urgent responsibilities waiting at home. What I didn't have, at least I thought, was courage. But hadn't I already survived abandonment in a foreign country? Hadn't I found shelter, food, even kindness? "There is a bus at 10:30, Maria said. "I can show you." I checked my watch. 9:15. That would be wonderful. "And your son?" she asked gently. "You call him?" I sighed. I should at least let him know I'm safe. "Yes," Maria nodded. "Let him worry a little, not too much." After breakfast, I sent a short message. "I am safe and have accommodation in Obidos. Taking time to think. Will be in touch." His reply came instantly. "Thank God. We were about to call the embassy. Where are you? We'll come get you." No apology, no accountability, just assumption. I typed back, "No need, I'm fine. What you did was cruel and dangerous. I need time." Then I turned off my phone. The bus ride to Caldas da Rainha was quiet. Olive groves and vineyards rolled past the window as a strange calm settled over me. Not happiness, but lightness, freedom from expectations. In town, I bought clothes, toiletries, and a small bag. Simple things, but empowering. At a cafe, I checked my phone again. More calls, more messages. The tone had shifted again, now frustration and guilt. "Are you trying to punish us? Elise is upset. You're ruining the trip." I laughed out loud. Elise was upset. The absurdity hit me all at once. Decades of sacrifice, of putting others first, and this was the result? Something inside me shifted. I wasn't going back. Not to Lisbon, not to that dynamic, not to that version of my life. Back at Maria's house, I laid out my purchases, took a long shower, let the water wash away the remnants of fear. And then, finally, I faced the question, what next? I began researching. Trains, cities, costs, language. Portugal, Spain, France. Then one place kept pulling me in. Italy, Tuscany, Florence. For 30 years I had taught Renaissance history, described Florence, Siena, art and architecture, places I had never truly seen. The irony struck me. I had inspired others to explore the world while never fully exploring it myself. A new message from Nathan. "We're about to contact the police." I almost smiled. I replied, "No need, I am safe. Taking time for myself. I'll contact you soon." Then I kept planning. Lisbon, Madrid, Florence. A real plan. My plan. When Maria returned, she studied me. "You look different," she said. "I've made a decision," I told her. "I'm not going back to my son." She nodded. "Good. I'm going to Florence." "Alone?" she asked. "Yes. Very brave." Was it bravery or recklessness? At 67, alone, in a foreign country? Maybe both, but the alternative was worse. Regret. "My brother drives to Lisbon tomorrow. He can take you." Relief flooded me. That evening, I sent Nathan one final message. "I've decided to continue traveling on my own. I am safe. This is my choice. I need time to think about what happened. I will contact you when I'm ready. Please respect that." I hesitated. Then I pressed send and silenced my phone. That night, under the glowing lights in the courtyard, I felt something new. Peace. Not just survival, not just determination, but the fragile beginning of happiness. Tomorrow, I would leave. Not return, leave. And for the first time in years, that distinction meant everything. I'd slept surprisingly well. It seemed my decision to move forward on my own had settled somewhere deep in my subconscious, even if small doubts still flickered at the edges of my waking thoughts. Maria had prepared a simple breakfast, which we shared in the courtyard. Strong coffee, fresh bread, local cheese, and slices of perfectly ripe melon. Joam arrived just as we were finishing. He declined coffee but accepted a glass of fresh orange juice. "Ready for adventure?" he asked with a wink, helping carry my modest belongings to his car, a well-maintained older Peugeot parked along a quiet side street. As ready as I'll ever be, I replied, surprised to realize I meant it. The paralyzing fear from 2 days ago had faded, replaced by a nervous excitement I hadn't felt in decades. Saying goodbye to Maria was unexpectedly emotional. A woman who had been a stranger just 48 hours ago had become something like a lifeline, someone who had steadied me when I was drowning in panic and uncertainty. Obrigada, I said, using one of the few Portuguese words I knew. De nada, she replied, pulling me into a warm embrace. You will be fine. You are stronger than you know. As Joan navigated the narrow streets of Óbidos, I glanced back at the medieval walls. In just 2 days, that small town had transformed from the place of my humiliation into the starting point of an adventure I had never imagined for myself. Where in Lisbon you go? He asked as we joined the highway heading south. The train station, Santa Apollonia, I said. I had booked a ticket on the overnight train to Madrid, departing at 9:30 that evening. The long gap between arrival and departure would give me time to explore the city at my own pace. No rushing, no pressure, no one checking their watch. Ah, good, he nodded. Train is best way. You see country. We spoke easily during the 2-hour drive. He told stories about growing up in Portugal, about his late wife, about life continuing after loss. When he asked about my husband, I told him. 3 years gone, a heart attack. There was a quiet understanding between us, that unspoken fellowship of people who had learned to rebuild their lives around absence. And now, he said with a small smile, new adventure, never too late. Yes, I replied softly, never too late. At the station, he made sure I knew where everything was, lockers, platforms, directions. His kindness, like Maria's, was simple and genuine. No expectations, just human decency. Boa viagem, he said as we parted. Thank you, I replied, meaning far more than the words could carry. After storing my bag, I set out into Lisbon with no plan beyond wandering. The freedom was intoxicating. I drifted through narrow streets in Alfama, paused at tiled facades, browsed small shops, and lingered in cafes with views of the Tagus River shimmering below. At one hilltop cafe, I finally checked my phone. There were several messages from Nathan, anger softening into concern, then something closer to regret. I thought carefully before replying. I'm in Lisbon today, traveling to places I've always wanted to see. I'm fine, making friends, figuring things out, and enjoying the freedom. This isn't about punishment. It's about finally doing something for myself. I'll check in so you know I'm safe. I love you, but I don't like how you treated me. We'll talk when I'm ready. For now, please respect my journey. I sent the message, turned my phone off, and put it away. The rest of the day unfolded in a quiet, steady rhythm. I visited the cathedral, wandered through Praça de Comércio, and had a leisurely lunch of grilled sardines and vino vane. No one rushed me, no one sighed or checked the time. I moved exactly as I pleased. By late afternoon, I returned to the station, bought simple provisions for the journey, and realized, quite suddenly, that I was smiling. Not for anyone else, just for myself. This, I thought, is what freedom feels like. The train to Madrid was comfortable, modern, and gently rocking. As Lisbon's lights faded into the distance, I felt something inside me loosen, as though I were shedding years of expectation and obligation. An elderly Portuguese woman across from me offered a small packet of cookies. Para viagem, she said with a kind smile. Obrigada, I replied. I accepted one, savoring both the sweetness of the biscuit and the quiet generosity behind it. My journey had only just begun, but already the world felt more open, more generous, more welcoming than I had ever allowed myself to believe. Madrid arrived in a blur of early morning light and commuter bustle. I had slept surprisingly well, lulled by the steady rhythm of the train. With my small bag and slightly rumpled clothes, I navigated the station, found the metro, bought a ticket in hesitant Spanish, and succeeded. A small victory. My flight to Florence wasn't until late afternoon, so I had time to explore. I wandered through Plaza Mayor, strolled in Retiro Park, and on a whim bought a sketchbook. Sitting on a bench, I began to draw. It wasn't good, not really, but it felt honest. Muy bonito, an elderly man said, pausing nearby. Gracias, I replied, embarrassed. No, he shook his head gently. Muy bueno, es honesto. He tapped his chest. From here. His words stayed with me. By evening, I was on a plane to Florence. As we descended, my heart pounded, not just with excitement, but with doubt. What was I doing? 67 years old, alone, in a country where I barely spoke the language. Adventure or foolishness? Taxi, signora? A man asked at the airport. Yes, please, I said, relief washing over me. The drive into Florence was bathed in golden light, and when I crossed the Arno and caught sight of the Ponte Vecchio, tears filled my eyes. I was here, not in a lecture hall, not in a textbook, here. The taxi stopped at a modest doorway. I rang the intercom, took a breath, and stepped inside. Benvenuta, Signora Palmer. Welcome to Florence, Signora Palmer. That simple welcome nearly undid me. My room was small but perfect, clean, quiet, a window overlooking a narrow street. I sat on the bed, exhaustion finally catching up with me. I had done it. Portugal, Spain, Italy. Alone. I lay back, fully clothed, and let the tears come, not from fear, but from something deeper. Relief. Release. Recognition. That night, the sounds of Florence, distant voices, scooters, church bells, lulled me to sleep. Morning sunlight woke me. For a moment, I didn't know where I was. Then it came rushing back. Florence. I sat up, suddenly alive with possibility. At breakfast, I met an American woman named Margaret, a retired librarian, kind, curious. You must have a long list of places to see, she said. Too many, I admitted. She smiled. My sister and I are visiting the Uffizi today. You're welcome to join us. The offer was warm, tempting, but I paused. I had just reclaimed my independence, my case, my choices, my journey. Did I really want to hand that over again so quickly? That's very kind, I said slowly. But I felt I needed to experience this first day on my own. Maybe another time. Margaret nodded, understanding in her eyes. Of course, sometimes solitude is the best way to really see a place. She scribbled something on a napkin and handed it to me. Here's my email if you change your mind or want to meet later. I tucked the napkin into my purse, genuinely touched. Thank you. After breakfast, I spoke with the helpful receptionist who marked a simple walking route on a map. First day, Duomo, Piazza della Signoria, and Ponte Vecchio, she said. Very good introduction to Firenze. Tomorrow, maybe museums. I can help with reservations. Armed with my map, a bottle of water, and a quiet sense of wonder, I stepped into the Florentine morning. The narrow streets opened occasionally into small piazzas, each with its own character. Neighborhood churches, tiny markets, clusters of cafes. I walked slowly, absorbing details I would have missed if I'd rushed. Intricate ironwork on balconies, small shrines to the Madonna tucked into corners, the play of light and shadow across centuries-old facades. Then I turned a corner, and there it was, the Duomo. I gasped aloud. No photograph had prepared me for the sheer scale and intricacy of Brunelleschi's dome or the multicolored marble facade. I stood transfixed, oblivious to the crowd swirling around me. For decades, I had described this place to students using slides and words. Now I was seeing it with my own eyes. Finding a quiet spot against a wall, I pulled out my sketchbook. I didn't attempt the whole cathedral, impossible, but focused on a single detail, a section of the campanile where Giotto's design used colored marble in geometric harmony. As I sketched, time slowed. The noise of the square faded. There was only light, stone, and form. Molto bene, a voice said beside me. I looked up. An elderly Italian man was studying my drawing. You are an artist. I smiled, a little embarrassed. No, just a tourist, but I taught art history for many years. Ah, his face lit up. You see with an educated eye, not just taking photos. He mimicked rapid camera clicks, making me laugh. Exactly, I said. I want to really see. He nodded, tapping his chest, then his forehead. This is the right way, slowly, attentively, with heart, not just eyes. Enjoy my city, signora. She has much to tell you. As he walked away, I realized I was smiling, a deep, genuine smile that felt unfamiliar. When had I last felt like this? I continued to Piazza della Signoria, where sculptures, including a replica of Michelangelo's David, stood in the open air as they had for centuries. I sat at a cafe, ordered an espresso and a small pastry, and simply observed life moving around me. My phone buzzed. The first time I'd thought to check it since arriving. Several messages from Nathan, shifting from anger to concern. Mom, this has gone too far. Tell us where you are. We're worried. Please let us know you're safe. I'm sorry about Portugal. We were wrong. If you really want to do this, at least tell us where you are. Progress, I thought. Not full understanding, but something. I typed carefully. In Florence, Hotel Alessandra. I am safe and happy. I'll check in every few days, but I need this time for myself. Then I turned off my phone and returned it to my purse. Whatever came next could wait. This day belonged to me. At Ponte Vecchio, I leaned against the stone railing, watching the Arno flow beneath me. The buildings along the river glowed softly in the afternoon light. A deep, quiet contentment settled over me. Not excitement, something steadier, like coming home to myself. In that moment, I understood. This journey wasn't just about Florence or independence. It was about reclaiming the woman I had once been, the passionate teacher, the curious mind, the soul moved by beauty. She had never disappeared. She had simply been waiting. Days turned into weeks. Florence wrapped itself around me. I developed a rhythm. Mornings at quiet cafes with my sketchbook, afternoons exploring museums and churches, evenings watching sunsets from different corners of the city. I moved from Hotel Alessandra to a small apartment near Santo Spirito, across the Arno in the quieter Oltrarno district. It was tiny but charming, a 16th century building with a minuscule kitchen where I learned to cook simple Italian meals from fresh market ingredients. Shopping at the local mercato became one of my favorite rituals, choosing produce, practicing Italian with patient vendors, carrying everything home in a woven bag. I checked my phone every few days, short updates to Nathan, occasional replies to Susan. The urgency faded. They realized I was fine, not lost or broken, just choosing a different path. One warm Tuesday morning, I sat at my favorite cafe. Buongiorno, Signora Judith, Giorgio greeted me, placing my usual macchiato and cornetto on the table. Bellissimo, I replied, my accent still clumsy but improving. I opened my sketchbook. Then I heard a voice. You have improved since the Duomo. I looked up. The elderly Italian man. You remember me? I asked. Of course, the American teacher with the artist's eye. He smiled. May I join you? Please. Antonio Ricci, he said, settling into the chair. We talked about art, history, life. He had been a literature professor at the University of Florence, a widower, thoughtful, perceptive, quietly warm. When I mentioned I hadn't visited the Braccacci Chapel, he almost looked scandalized. Masaccio, essential, revolutionary, you must see. He checked his watch. It is open now, not far. Perhaps we go together? I surprised myself by saying yes. The chapel was quiet. Antonio guided me to the perfect spot. "Look," he said softly, "the first truly human figures." I stared at the fresco, Adam and Eve expelled from Eden. Raw emotion, real bodies, real grief. Tears stung my eyes. "It's extraordinary," I whispered. "Yes, a revolution in paint." We stayed for over an hour. Later, over lunch, papabelle with wild boar ragu and Chianti, our conversation deepened. "And your family?" he asked gently. I hesitated. "We're not fully reconciled." He nodded. "Sometimes distance is necessary." "And you?" he asked gently. "Have you found yourself?" I paused. "I think I'm still becoming." He smiled. "Good, that is the only honest answer." As we finished, he mentioned his country home near Montepulciano. "Cooler there, quieter. If you wish, you may visit, as my guest." The offer surprised me. Sensing my hesitation, he added, "My housekeeper is always there, very proper. I am an old professor, not a dangerous man." I laughed. "Let me think about it," I said. "Of course." Walking home in the golden afternoon light, I turned the invitation over in my mind. It wasn't just about safety, it was about trust. In him, in myself. The week passed in a gentle blur. Each morning brought sunlight, distant church bells, and the quiet hum of Florence waking up. Antonio's card remained on my table, not accepted, not refused, just waiting. One morning I sat on my tiny balcony, coffee in hand, the card between my fingers. Maybe this wasn't just a decision about travel. Maybe it was about how far I was willing to step into this new version of myself. Inside, my phone buzzed. The first time I'd thought to check it since arriving. The distinctive ringtone I'd assigned to Nathan's calls broke the quiet morning. I sighed, setting my coffee aside before reaching for the phone. Our communication had settled into an unspoken rhythm, brief text updates from me every few days, and occasional calls from him. Sometimes I answered, sometimes I didn't. It depended entirely on how much emotional energy I had to spare. Today, I chose to answer. "Hello, Nathan." "Mom." His voice carried both relief and fatigue. "I was starting to think you were avoiding my calls." "Sometimes I am," I admitted, surprising even myself with the honesty. "Sometimes I need space." He fell silent for a moment, clearly absorbing this unfamiliar version of me. "How are you?" he asked finally, his tone softer. "I'm well, very well, actually." I stepped back out onto the balcony, phone in hand. "Florence agrees with me." "You've been there almost a month now. Don't you think it's time to—" "To what?" I interrupted, surprising us both. "Time to come home? Time to return to my proper place? Time to pretend nothing happened?" Silence. Longer this time. "I was going to say, time to let us know your plans," he said eventually. "But I hear how that sounds now." Progress, I thought. Small, but real. "I don't have specific plans, Nathan." My gaze drifted to an elderly woman across the street, carefully selecting tomatoes at a small market. The simplicity of the moment felt precious. That's part of what I'm enjoying, the freedom to decide day by day what I want. "That doesn't sound like you," he said, a hint of accusation slipping through. "Maybe not the mother you knew," I replied gently, "but perhaps it sounds exactly like the woman I really am, or am becoming." "Mom," he hesitated. "What happened in Portugal, Elise and we were wrong. We've talked about it a lot. It was cruel and dangerous. I'm ashamed of it." The apology washed over me like cool water. I hadn't realized how deeply I needed those words until I heard them. "Thank you," I said quietly. "That means more than you know." "I want to make it right," he continued. Just tell me how. There it was, the familiar pattern. Nathan searching for a clear solution, a task to complete, something that would erase the past and restore everything to normal. It's not that simple, I said gently. What happened revealed something deeper, about how you see me and how I've allowed myself to be seen. That doesn't get fixed with one apology. Then what do you want from me? A flicker of impatience surfaced. Time, I said simply. Space to figure out who I am outside of being your mother, and eventually a chance to build something new between us, something based on respect, not obligation. And when will that be? He pressed. When will you be ready? I don't know yet, I admitted, but I will come home, Nathan, just not yet. After we hung up, I remained on the balcony replaying the conversation in my mind. His apology was sincere, I believed that, but his expectation of a quick resolution revealed just how much work still lay ahead. My eyes drifted to Antonio's card in my hand. Perhaps what I needed now wasn't a return to the familiar, but a step further into the unknown. Not running from the past, but moving deliberately toward a future of my own choosing. Decision made. I picked up the phone again and dialed. Antonio answered on the third ring, warmth immediately filling his voice. Judith, I was hoping you might call. I've been thinking about your invitation to visit Monte Pulciano. Yes? I'd like to accept, if the offer still stands. Of course it stands, he replied, his enthusiasm unmistakable. When would you like to come? I'll be leaving Florence tomorrow. Any time after that works. We settled on the following weekend, giving me time to wrap things up, inform my landlord, decide what to take, and say goodbye to the small life I'd built here. Antonio insisted on sending a car. The countryside can be confusing for visitors. My nephew Luca will come, very reliable. After we finalized the details, we lingered in light conversation. Weather, crowds, my recent discoveries in the city. Before we hung up, he said something that stayed with me. I am glad you called, Judith. Not everyone recognizes a new chapter when it appears. A new chapter. That's exactly what this was. Not an ending, not an escape, but a deliberate turning of the page. The next few days passed in a blur of small rituals and quiet goodbyes. Coffee with Giorgio, who gifted me a bag of his special roast for countryside mornings. Final visits to museums where familiar masterpieces felt like old friends. Botticelli's Birth of Venus, Michelangelo's David, Fra Angelico's serene frescoes. This time I didn't analyze, I simply experienced. On my last evening, I climbed to Piazzale Michelangelo. The setting sun cast Florence in gold, the Duomo rising proudly over a sea of terracotta roofs. I arrived here broken. I was leaving whole, not because the city healed me, but because it gave me the space to heal myself. The next morning, I packed lightly. Again, Luca arrived exactly on time, warm and charming, helping me into a sleek Alfa Romeo. Welcome, Signora Palmer. I am to deliver you safely to La Colombaia. La Colombaia? The Dove quote, once birds, now wine. As we left Florence behind, the landscape unfolded into something out of a painting. Rolling hills, vineyards, olive groves, and cypress-lined roads. This is Vino Nobile territory, Luca said. Our family has grown grapes here for over 300 years. Has it always passed from father to son? He smiled. Not always. My grandmother Sophia ran everything for 20 years. People doubted her. She proved them wrong. I liked that immediately. Monte Pulciano rose ahead like a crown on a hill. Beyond it, after winding through valleys and vineyards, we reached La Colombaia. It wasn't grand, it was something better, authentic, A stone house, a tower, vineyards stretching beyond. A place shaped by time, not show. Antonio greeted me with warmth that felt effortless. Inside, everything was simple yet perfect. Stone floors, soft light, lived-in elegance. Sophia welcomed me like family, pressing food on me with a smile. Eat, food gets cold, opportunity passes. I smiled. I was beginning to understand this place already. My cottage sat slightly apart, surrounded by lavender and roses. Small, quiet, perfect. "This is your home now," Antonio said. "Your home." The words lingered. After unpacking, I stepped into the garden and breathed deeply. The air carried something new. Freedom. I reached for my phone to text Nathan. No signal, not even one bar. And instead of panic, I felt relief. For the first time in weeks, I was completely unreachable. No expectations, no obligations, no past pulling at me. Just this moment, just this place, just me. As the dinner bell rang and the sun dipped below the hills, I walked back along the lavender path with a quiet certainty settling inside me. Not that everything was solved, but that I was exactly where I needed to be. The woman abandoned in Portugal was gone. In her place stood someone new, someone who understood that endings are often beginnings, that loss can open doors, and that it is never too late to start again.